Hey y'all, my name is Sarah and welcome to my channel. Well, hello there everybody. It's good to see you again. I took a tiny little break, but I'm back now. If you're here for the watercolor content, sadly there will be none today. However, if you're interested, I recently completed a new bird painting. I'll put a photo of it up on the screen here. This one took quite some time to complete, and that's why there's no video of it when I do paintings that take more than a couple of hours. I tend to not record them because it gets in the way and it kind of ruins the creative process for me. So that's why you don't often see longer duration paintings on my channel, because it gets in the way, and there's no benefit for me to try to film those and post them because it's just a speed paint anyway, and it's not my thing. But I do want to talk a little bit about fountain pens today. More broadly, I want to talk about, well, I have acquired several pens this month, and I'll show you those first, but then I want to talk a little bit about collecting or buying and mental health, which is a new topic I've been exploring lately, so bear with me. So first, the acquisitions. So the first pen I bought this month was a TWSBI Mini. Now, I have a VAC Mini that I really love, but recently I discovered that the TWSBI Mini, the one that's a piston filler, not a VAC filler, can use the nib from a TWSBI Diamond 580. And I was very tempted because this nib is bigger, and to have a big nib on a small pen is kind of my dream come true. So I had the nib already because I had bought a replacement a while ago. So I just went ahead and bought the pen, and it is very enjoyable to use. So that's purchase one. The next thing I want to show you is the Monteverde Ritma. This one is the new orange color, and I did ask them to put in a silver nib for me. These pens always come with black nib, black coated anodized black nibs. I like the way they look, but I don't like the way coated nibs write. So I asked Dromgools to swap out the nib with a silver nib for me, and they did that with no problem. So that was very nice of them. The Ritma is nice because the cap is magnetic. It's kind of a fun little fidget gadget. These pens are relatively inexpensive too. This was 40 bucks. It's a bit heavy. I don't use it posted because the cap just makes it very unbalanced. Like you can see, the balance point is pretty far back when you have it capped. So posted. So I don't post it, but the nib is a standard Jowo nib, and it's just kind of a standard writing experience. I find the pen's weight to be a little bit cumbersome. It feels a little bit like the Brass Sport, the Kaweco Brass Sport, in that it's kind of heavy and awkward to write with over time. But it was a fun little purchase. It'll be a great travel pen, one I can kind of throw around and not worry about. So that was nice. Now, the next group of pens I want to talk about it's kind of interesting. So these are all Pilot Custom 823s. The long story here is I had an Amber 823, which is this one. I had an Amber 823, and I had ordered the Fujiyama Blue 823, and so I ended up selling my Amber 823 in order to pay for that Fujiyama Blue, which I do have an unboxing of that pen on my channel, so I'll link it up in the cards. So I'll link that unboxing. But it turns out that I felt disconnected from the Fujiyama Blue pen, and I think it was because it was rhodium plated. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what I meant by disconnected in a minute. But for now, I will just show you. I ended up selling the Fujiyama Blue and rebuying a new Amber 823, which I have been very happy with. And then I had the opportunity to buy the clear Demonstrator 823. And you can't, what's interesting to me is that you kind of can't tell that it's clear unless you take the cap off, because you've got ink in the body and the finials are black, and so it's just kind of the cap that's clear. But these you can only get in Japan, and so I bought it secondhand from somebody else, and it was a good purchase. So that's that one, and I bought that this month. The opportunity popped up. I was not looking to buy yet another pen, but the opportunity popped up with a decent price, and so I went ahead and got it. This last custom 823 is the black one, or the smoke color. So it's almost solid black, but the cap and the body are slightly translucent. They're kind of a gray, dark black, gray kind of translucent shade. So this pen I bought because I wanted to try the Pilot medium nib. One of the things that has been happening lately with me is I've been drawn more towards broader lines, wetter pens, thicker lines. So I want to talk a little bit about what I meant by the connection to the pen. And so basically, writing with fountain pens for me is it's not a day-to-day note-taking kind of thing. I don't use my fountain pens for work notes or things like that. I use my fountain pens for journaling specifically. And so I use one pen per page in my journal, and I'll typically write 2 to 3 pages a day. And these are small pages. It's an A6 journal. And the thing about it is I consider the act of writing with a fountain pen, because it has a sort of ASMR quality to it, I consider it mildly therapeutic in a way. To me, buying a new pen or experiencing a new ink or anything like that is kind of a therapy sort of thing-ish, both in the things that I'm writing, but for me, actually even more so the experience of writing it with this kind of writing instrument. So that's part one. I specifically have a connection to my pens. Each one of them has a personality. Each one of them, I have a certain ink I like with it, or a set of inks that I like with them, and I feel a different way depending on which pen I'm using. And so the pens sort of act as a therapy tool for me. The other piece to that is actually retail therapy, which is not good. I have found that I have 2 coping mechanisms. The first is eating, which I think actually a lot of people have. That's not uncommon. Actually, shopping isn't that uncommon either. But for me, because I have been overweight my whole life and I recently lost a whole bunch of weight and I really would like to keep it off, I am doing my best to avoid eating as a coping mechanism. And so what happens is I bounce between eating and shopping as a way to cope with stress and emotions and things like that. So if I feel like I don't want to eat because I'm trying to be healthy, I tend to turn to shopping, which is not good, but at the moment I've started therapy, so I'm working on building better coping mechanisms. I'm kind of going over where I have been so far. And so shopping for pens particularly has been a big part of that shopping retail therapy, because they're collectible, right? There's a ton of different ones. There are pens that are made by different different independent makers, and they have different nibs and different nib sizes, and you can collect 3 of the same pen, and each one of them could have a different nib size, for example. So for me, because of the combination of the act of writing and how it helps me feel, in addition to the act of buying, means that I tend to buy more fountain pens than I need, if we're real. And I think a lot of people are faced with the same kind of coping strategies, but I just wanted to talk about it and be open about it because while I don't think it's healthy, I think it's common. So I just wanted to put it out there because I think some people might look at my pen buying and think it's excessive. Actually, amongst the pen community, my pen collection is pretty modest. I try to keep it slim. A lot of times if I want to buy an expensive pen, I will sell 1 or 2 less expensive pens to pay for it. So I try to keep my collection modest. So yeah, that is why I have acquired so many pens this month. In particular, we're having some health issues in the family, and it's been really upsetting me. And so I've been kind of acquiring more than usual pens and things. I also bought a bunch of beads to make bracelets, so you know. The other pen that I bought is this Estie Oversized in Honeycomb. I had been eyeballing this pen actually for almost a year. I already have this Esterbrook Estie, and I have, when I first got it, actually, I bought it in person. I had even tried it, and it just wasn't, once I got it home and started using it and inked it up, it just wasn't the experience I was expecting. And I think it was actually the ink that was causing problems for me with this one, because I changed out the ink and I've been very happy with this pen ever since. So knowing that I have really been enjoying this pen, I revisited the idea of the Honeycomb Estie. I love this acrylic or celluloid or whatever it is. I love this material. I definitely prefer gold accents and gold nibs. So, and that's not to say that I don't like stainless steel nibs, it's that I don't like silver colored nibs. So I actually really love stainless steel nibs. This is a stainless steel nib. So anyway, the nib is exactly the same size as the regular Estie. They are in fact the same nib. It's just that the pin is chunkier. I think given the option again, I probably wouldn't go for the oversized, mainly because I feel like the cost isn't worth it because the nib is the same size. I tend to like really large nibs, but in this case, the nib is actually the same size as the regular Estie, and this one is actually a little bit more comfortable in my hand. Not that I don't like this, I like it, I absolutely will use it, but I probably should have gotten the regular size Estie in this model. But now I know, and I like that I have one of each. And again, I bought this one from Dromgools, and I bought this one from Atlas Stationers. They're in Chicago. I bought this one in person. So in my little writing sample that has been in the B-roll of the video, you'll see that I've got White Lightning on several inks. So I'm gonna do a video on White Lightning and how I use it and why I use it, and I'll post that next week. So look out for that video if you're interested in learning more about White Lightning. So anyway, that is my penquisitions for the month. I hope this was interesting. I would really love to hear from you if you have the same sort of coping issues that I do, because I've been dealing with these issues for several months now. I've been made aware of them, and yes, I've started therapy, but I'm really interested to hear what you think, if you have similar problems or coping strategies, if you collect things in the same way for the same reasons. I'd love to hear what you think, because this is something that's really, really important to me, and I'm really sensitive about it. So anyway, thanks for coming by. I really appreciate you visiting the channel, and I will see you next week.